Welcome to the REMIX. Hey guys, welcome back. This is actually a build that I did back in February of this year, and there is a video on my channel of this build. However, there's a couple things that I wish I knew then, which I know now. So I decided to just do an update on this video and add a couple things and make some changes. By the way, this is not an avocado. So this table is built from solid ash, so my first step in the build was to break all my material down and set everything up for my spirograph style template. Once the ash was broken down into more manageable pieces, I began milling the material so I would have a good edge for gluing and joining all the edges together. As I was using domino joinery, I took the time to trace out the rough shape of the coffee table. That way I'd have kind of an idea of where dominoes should and should not go. Don't kid yourself, this could have easily been done with a biscuit joiner or even pocket holes, but I have a Festool domino, so don't judge me for using it. Just to keep life easy, I did glue the tabletop up in 3 different sections. That way I had a better chance of getting a level surface right off the bat. Once the glue was dry, I did send everything through the drum sander just to make it as level as possible and clean up any of the high spots before doing my final glue up. If this is your first time visiting my channel, I really want to say thanks and welcome. If you like what you see, feel free to hit that subscribe button. It'd be greatly appreciated. Easily one of the most satisfying things in woodworking. Once I had the jig attached to the base plate on my router, I used two-sided tape just to attach the center part of the template into place on the tabletop. To prevent burning and just to make sure I wasn't biting off too much than the router could take, I took several just little passes around. As you're going around, you're going from end grain into straight grain, so it makes sense to just take small passes as you go. So I want to explain a few things. The reason that I've attached this board just to the end basically is that's what I use for my guide when I have this attached here, so I can make sure that for whatever reason this doesn't ride up on the template just because it's such thin material, just to keep things safe. I've never had any issues doing it this way, but it's just a precautionary thing. But this template will be available on the Inventables website. Make sure to put a direct link below in the comments if you want to make this tabletop. I'll make sure you get a copy of the template. The description, not the comments. It'll be in the description. So once I was done with the general shape of the table, I was able to move on to my materials to mill up for the leg assemblies. So there was a couple more steps involved in this because I used 8/4 material for my legs. I actually cut everything down to the width of what 2 leg assemblies would be, and then came back and resawed each piece down to the right thickness. I felt that 8/4 would just be too thick for the size of leg I was going with to go with this style of table. Now that I had all my pieces milled to the appropriate dimensions, I came back and just cut everything down to the dimensions that would be required to be able to cut the angles for the 2-leg assemblies. So this is actually a tapering jig that I built. I'll link the video of where I build this, and you'll be able to find the plans to build your own if this is something you're interested in. Once I had my individual pieces for the leg assemblies, I did add dominoes and then glue everything together into my 1 leg assembly, which there was actually 4 legs to this. Once everything was sanded, I could come back and add some splines. Now, I think splines are one of the strongest kind of joint you can do on an assembly like this, and it was super simple to do, and I actually really like the way it turned out from a visual perspective. And you'll see a bit of that a little bit later on with the beauty shots at the end. So the legs are just simply attached to the tabletop with screws and glue. I marked everything out kind of in one shot just to make sure that I was as even as I could be with all my holes. And I just set up this simple fence on my drill press to be able to consistently drill the holes. After the final shaping and sanding of the table, I was ready to move on to some of the detail work, like some epoxy filling in some of the cracks and some of the general finishing that would be required to be prepared for finish. You'll probably notice kind of here that the epoxy is an off color. That's because I mixed in some of the reserve sawdust from the ash just to kind of help things blend a little bit better. I went with the general finishes matte finish just to make sure that this was as true to the wood as possible. So after a couple coats of this, as well as some buffing and waxing, the table was good to be delivered. Thanks for tuning in, guys. If you have any questions, feel free to chime in the comments below. If you want to check out what I'm doing and kind of get a behind the scenes look, feel free to follow me on my Instagram.
Hey, thanks a lot, guys. I made this, and Chris watched me make it.